I'm Ben Carson, and I'm a candidate for President of the United States.
I'm Carly Fiorina, and I'm running for president.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Joe Concha with my co-host, Rick Unger. Heather Hansen, Bill Tucker also along for the ride. 2016 presidential field now getting even more crowded. Today, retired neurosurgeon Dr. Ben Carson and former Hewlett-Packard CEO Carly Fiorina stepping into the race to absolutely no one's surprise. Both are casting themselves as outsiders. Carson is the first African-American to join the 2016 race upon announcing his candidacy. He shared some familiar Tea Party themes as he unveiled his campaign in his hometown of Detroit.
I'm not an anti-government person by any stretch of the imagination. I think the government, as described in our Constitution, is wonderful. But now we've gone far beyond what our Constitution describes, and we've begun to just allow it to expand based on what the political class wants, because they like to increase their power and their dominion over the people. And I think it's time for the people to rise up and take the government back.
Now, Dr. Carson rose from poverty and ultimately became the head of pediatric neurosurgery at Baltimore's Johns Hopkins Children's Center, saving hundreds of lives and being considered one of the best in his field. His star rose in conservative circles after condemning Obamacare in front of the president at the 2013 National Prayer Breakfast. Meanwhile, Carly Fiorina becomes the first Republican woman to run in the 2016 race, and she made her announcement online.
If you're tired of the sound bites, the vitriol, the pettiness, the egos, the corruption, if you believe that it's time to declare the end of identity politics, if you believe that it's time to declare the end of lowered expectations, if you believe that it's time for citizens to stand up to the political class and say enough, then join us.
And a tear coming to Heather's eye. Finally, here's that announcement. More on that in a moment. In the weeks leading up to her announcement, Fiorina has been a constant critic of Democratic 2016 rival Hillary Clinton. Fiorina gained stature with Republicans after her unsuccessful bid to unseat Senator Barbara Boxer in 2000. Tomorrow, former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee is expected to announce, after announcing that he would be announcing an underdog campaign of his own. He'll be counting on the religious conservative wing to carry him in places like Iowa. Huckabee, Carson, Fiorina will be joining Senators Cruz, Paul, and Rubio, who declared their candidacies in recent weeks. Okay, Ms. Hansen, Carly is in. Will you be her running mate?
Oh gosh, I think she's really vying to be someone else's running mate, to be perfectly honest. I think she doesn't, I mean, she certainly doesn't have the gravitas nor the experience to run this country. I think she probably knows that, but I think she's also sort of trying to pigeon herself as the person who can take on Hillary when some of the men can't. I just worry that that turns into this whole woman thing that it doesn't have to be. You know, it doesn't have to constantly be the woman taking on the woman and all of that good stuff.
Okay, it's very hard for a male candidate to attack a female candidate. Very delicate. We saw it with Biden, with Palin in the 2008 vice presidential debate, right? He was very, very soft on her. However, to your point, if you make her a VP candidate, despite the fact she has some baggage that we'll talk about in a second, she can go after Hillary very, very aggressively, and no one can say war on women.
That's right. And I think that that's how she's selling herself. I mean, she goes after Hillary more than any of the others do every time she's on. She started her announcement today, right there, by going on Hillary, turning off Hillary's ad. She is telling to the other candidates, pick me, I can fight her where you can't.
She's playing Pitbull. And you're right. She's auditioning for the second shot.
Yeah.
Look, you know, I actually take Carly much more seriously than I do with Ben Carson. I have a real issue with Ben Carson. He gets up there and he constantly talks about welfare and how it's, you know, destroying people and this and that. And he won't acknowledge that he, as he did in his books, that he is a product of welfare and an example of how it can help you. His mother got food stamps to feed him. He acknowledges this. He got glasses when he needed them when he wasn't a good student because he couldn't see. The state paid for his glasses. He went to public schools. They lived in public housing. He had all of the benefits. Now, to his mother's credit And to his credit, he was pushed to make something of himself, and he certainly did that. But to be on this side of it and to say, well, the difference is, and this is what he sees as the difference, we didn't like being on welfare back then. We were ashamed of it. Today, they don't mind a bit. Well, that's pretty thin. So Carson has an issue there, and Mike Huckabee's just a hypocrite. I'm sorry.
I want to go back to Carla Fiorina. I want to talk about the baggage she's got, because if there was anybody that represents sort of the poster problem for the Republican Party, it is her. Because in her tenure, as she ran Hewlett-Packard, tens of thousands of people were laid off. She offshored tens of thousands of jobs. She tripled her salary, like the greedy CEO GOP person she is. It's like.
I do find it hilarious, though, that she has to carry that baggage, yet Hillary Clinton can make X amount per speech and no one has any problem with that.
Yeah.
Well, but that's a different kind of baggage. I mean, I got a feeling in some ways it's where Rick and I are probably going to agree, totally agree. It's like, no, that's a different kind of baggage, because she was leading an organization in charge.
It is interesting.
The liberal here doesn't count people's money.
Since 1953, there has never been a non-politician who's won an election. We just had 2 non-politicians that jumped in today. President Bill Clinton defends the Clinton Foundation. How? Next.